And welcome back to our book talk segment of the program today. Great to welcome a man who's written a very interesting book, and I think it's going to touch a lot of people's lives. I think we've all had something similar, a story of our dads and maybe the home country where they came from, and this book is really kind of touches on that. It's called Cobblestones, Conversations, and Corks, a son's discovery of his Italian heritage. We're joined today by Giovanni Ruscitti. He's a lawyer, very talented man, a public speaker, and he wrote the book about his father and his kind of going back to his father's original town over in Italy. We'll find out about it. And Giovanni joined us by telephone today, I believe from out in Colorado. And Giovanni, good to talk with you. How are you?
Great, Doug. Thanks for having me on. I really
am I right? Is it Colorado you're today?
Yep, I'm sitting in my office in Boulder. It's a great day out here, beautiful blue skies. So
I've only been there once. I have to get back there. It's a beautiful part of the country, so I will get back out there. But I enjoyed the book for several reasons. But one is I grew up in a town, Long Island, just outside of the city of New York, and predominantly Italian and Irish in the town I grew up in. I'm not either one, but I heard many stories kind of similar to yours of friends of mine's grandparents or even maybe dads who came from the old country in Italy. So I enjoyed it from that aspect. But I guess from your aspect, it really was kind of a moving story for you, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was initially it started off as not a book per se, but really a tribute to my father. He had asked me to write his story right before he passed away. My dad was a very fascinating person. He was an ordinary person who lived this extraordinary and inspiring life. He came here at age 21 from Italy after experiencing extreme poverty in central Italy, with just the shirt on his back, and became a very successful person in many ways. And he was one of those guys who was friends with everybody and could talk to the CEO of the organization and also the custodian. He was just this amazing personality. And I had the opportunity in 2020. Really, I was kind of moved by all the negative things that were happening, and all this negative focus on immigrants, which I just thought was unfortunate. And I thought, I'm going to sit down and start writing out this tribute to my dad. And then in the process, Doug, it's a memoir, so it became also a lot about me and discovery of who I am and my background. And what I realized is I was impacted in so many positive ways by my father and by my mother, who's from the same town, and their lifestyle and their culture and the things that they taught us and what they went through. So, I think it's a book that a lot of people will relate to, because we all have, as you said at the beginning, we all have stuff like this that we can connect to the story with.
Yeah, my grandparents, both sides, came from part of Canada that maybe not too many people know about, Newfoundland, and when they came here, there really wasn't much there, so they really almost had to come. At least my grandparents came to America. A similar kind of story, obviously from a different country, but not much there for them as far as jobs, or not great jobs. So, I think everybody has somebody in their family, or if they don't, they know somebody that has gone through kind of what your dad went through. It's kind of the American story, isn't it?
For sure. And yeah, it's a classic American dream, and it really, at its core, it's a love story. For me, it was a love story, father-son story, but also I was able to tell my parents' story of their relationship. They met as 17 and 14-year-olds in central Italy, and they were married for 62 years. It's a love story with this town and region in central Italy, and of course, we're Italian, so it's also a love story about the culture and food and wine and the things that Italians do that are just so different and unique from what we do here.
Yeah, no
that
doubt.
I think we can learn from.
And again, the backdrop again, when your dad came over here, was during World War II, right? I mean, obviously the Nazis were invading Italy, and I guess the town is Cansano. Am I pronouncing that correctly? That's where he was from?
Yeah, you are. The town of Cansano. It's in a mountainous part of central Italy. And what was happening in 1943, Italy at that time was aligned with Germany and the Nazis, unfortunately, and they were losing kind of their strength in the war. Thank goodness, right? And
right.
But what the Nazis started doing was moving in through central Italy and taking over these small towns in the mountains, because they knew the Americans and the Polish forces were coming up through Sicily. And they took over towns like Consano and literally forced the people to go live in the hillside and in the winter in rough, rugged conditions. So they were already poor, Doug, and then they experienced extreme poverty and misery for about 6 months. And when they came out of that and they returned to their towns, everything was gone. All their possessions were either taken or broken or destroyed, and they had to start over. And it was a challenge for them. So there was this mass exodus and immigration to various places like Canada, Australia. And for my family, ironically enough, they didn't stop in places like New York, although some of them did. They continued west to Colorado and made their way to where I grew up, Frederick, Colorado, which is an equally small town.
I was going to ask you about that because, like I said, I grew up in New York. A lot of them, most came through New York. Canada, I know, big Italian population. I never really heard that there was a large population, at least at that point, in Colorado. Was that common, or was that kind of unusual for your family?
No, it was very common.
Yeah.
What happened was these men primarily would leave Italy to find work and to make money for their families back home, because there was really no jobs in Central Italy at that time. So they came here, and the only work that they could find, of course, was difficult work, and it was coal mining. And there was a lot of coal mines in Colorado, and so they, one member of the family or from the town would come here and get it, make some money and go back and give it to the family, or they would bring other people here. And so you had this big part of Consano, which wasn't a big place in the first place. It was 2,000 or 3,000 people, but most of them immigrated away, and most of them came to Colorado, to Frederick. So when I was a kid growing up, I heard more Italian than I did English. In fact, I didn't really until I was 5 or 6. And it was a very Italian community, and it would be incredibly common, and this is my life as well, you would see these old Italians butcher goats or lamb, and they would be making wine or prosciutto and dried cheeses and dried sausages, and it was a very Italian place because it's what they knew.
Sure.
And they were able to keep this sense of community, which kept them together, and they all were able to survive and prosper and do well.
I know we have limited time today, but the book, and you describe it so well, your experiences of going back to that town and where your dad and your mom grew up, and what you saw and what you learned, it's really kind of interesting. Obviously, that was an important part of your life to do that. Did you learn anything maybe you didn't expect by going over there?
Doug, we don't have enough time for me to tell you all the things, but the book became kind of a discovery of my own identity,
right.
Which I didn't really have an appreciation for. I always knew, of course, that I was an Italian American, but I hadn't been there. My first time there was in 2013, and I was fortunate enough to go with my parents and my wife and 2 of our 3 kids, and all of the stories that he had told me came to life, and suddenly, and it was kind of like a living history, right? He told these stories, and some of them were very meaningful, like the ones about World War II and how these people were touched. But all of a sudden, my true sense of identity came out, and I think we all have that story. Mm-hmm. And what I'm hoping for, if people read Cobblestones, Conversations, and Corks, they're inspired by my father's story and find something that they can attach to, and discovering who you are and living your life to its fullest. My dad used to say all the time, "You can do it." Which still resonates in my mind whenever I need that little pickup. You can do it.
Give the title one more time. Cobblestones, Conversations, and Corks, a son's discovery of his Italian heritage. And Giovanni Ruscitti has been our guest today. And Giovanni, give out a website, if you will. We'll put a link on our website as well, but where can they get more about the book?
Yeah, you can go to LinkedIn and just, look me up in LinkedIn. So just type in Giovanni Ruscitti. Also, you can go to Radius Book Group, Google Radio. They're my publisher, and you'll have all the information there. And, of course, you can buy the book on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, anywhere books are sold.
Great. Giovanni, pleasure talking to you. Hopefully we can do it again down the road, but thanks for being with us today.
Thanks for having me on, and I'd love to come back.
I'm Stan Brock. 30 years ago, I formed Remote Area Medical to help people overseas. But then we found generations of families in America, isolated by poverty from the health care they need. Together, we can take dental, vision, and medical help to 1 million adults and their kids, right here at home in the United States of America.